Welcome to How Would You Write It, the podcast where we dive into the minds of storytellers to discover what it really takes to create the stories that we love. I'm Nanea Taylor, and I sit down with screenwriters, novelists, directors, actors, and producers to explore the twists and turns of their creative processes. On How Would You Write It, it's all about the stories behind the story. So if you're curious about the art craft of storytelling, you're in the right place. Let's get started. My guest for today is Guy Crawford. Everyone has a story. Guy's almost ended before it began. He was given 24 hours to live as a child. He beat the odds and used television to help him find his way back to the new normal. Today, Guy is a former Fortune 500 farmer turned writer who hails from the Deep South, New Orleans, to be exact. His writing is flavored by a city whose diverse culture draws visitors from all over the world. It's been said that the NOLA vibe bleeds on the page of everything he writes. He writes features and pilots that reflect the world around him. Don't be surprised if he uses truth and humor or a dash of hope to point a mirror at the issues we face in society. Today, his work has been placed in prestigious contests like the Austin Film Festival and Screencraft Features Program. He's an unabashed ambassador for the city that stole a piece of his soul. If given a chance, he'll even tell you about the misty Mardi Gras night in Jean Lafayette's blacksmith shop where he met a ghost named Josephine. He's telling us about that tonight, and he has witnesses to this. Quite simply, Guy is a storyteller looking for an audience. He's never forgotten how television helped him adjust to his new wires being scrambled as a kid. The ability to get lost in a world, maybe even see himself on screen, and enjoy the characters created by the talented writers was a gift to him. He loved the opportunity to do the same for others through the stories that he writes. Welcome, Guy.
Thank you.
So, Guy, we're going to be talking today about your script, Gable. One of my favorite scripts, like one of my favorite scripts by you, even though you have many under your belt. Gable is one of my favorite scripts by you. Can you give the audience just a little bit of kind of a synopsis of what Gable is about?
Yeah, Gable is about a high school hero, a kid that everybody adores. You know him. You remember that kid. I guarantee you do. That everybody thought walked on water. But this one has a dark history, a murderous nature, and uses what you see to hide in plain sight. You never suspect him of being the killer because he's the boy you wanted to be. He's the boy you wanted your daughter to date. And it's awful hard to look past your own bias to see what's really in front of you.
I love this story because you didn't see it coming. The pacing of this story, of this thriller, is so good. And I really want to delve into your brain about how you went about the pacing. So, but one of the first things I always ask people is, how did you come up with the concept? What was the initial idea that got you started on this script?
This one might be a little scary for you. I had spent hours trying to come up with not a horror slasher, but a psychological type thriller that would appeal to me as a writer and to the audience. You know, I'm a big fan of Hannibal Lecter's The Movie. It's just so well done. And I couldn't. I had a basket full of crumbled up paper. I went to bed, woke up in the middle of the night, went to the computer, turned on the software, knew the title of the script, who Gable was, and wrote the first 10 pages. With no notes, no outline. It just poured out of me in the middle of the night. And then getting it written was almost like sitting down and just letting it more pour out. It was there. The story was inside of me. And it had to do really with a small town, a golden boy, And then what people see are the image they create in their own mind. You know, it's I've always tell people, would you recognize evil behind the swoon-inducing smile if the package was wrapped by you? And that's the real concept of Gable is he knows who he is. He's known since he was a small child. He's learned to practice to be the perfect boy, the one everybody loves, because he doesn't feel anything. He imitates everything. So he picks the good and ignores the bad. And if you look at, you know, historically through time with serial killers, they all met their monster somewhere, but we normally don't see them until they're fully grown and
Mm-hmm.
out in the world doing the things. But somewhere they started. And Los Bayou is where Gable begins because they're the people who fed him that adoration, that love. And all he had to do was to keep pretending to be exactly what they wanted to see.
And it's so interesting because you start the story when he's 10 years old and he's being
Mm-hmm.
bullied. He's a chubby, kind of ostracized child. He's weird. He's a weird child. Um,
Right.
and so he's ostracized. He's being bullied himself. And just to give a little bit of story away, his first kill is the bully. To be honest with you, his first kill is the bully. Even
Right.
though you show his psychopathic nature right before that, and I'm not going to tell how you do that, but you show his psychopathic nature before that kill happens. But he ends up killing kind of his bully
Mm-hmm.
as his first kill. And then you move us forward 7 years when he's 17 years old, and uh, he is the most popular kid in school,
Right.
football player. All the girls love him. All the guys wish they can be him. He is in the world. He volunteers at a homeless shelter. The whole small town they're just like, Gable, you're just Gabe. You're just the best of the best. Everyone should try to follow Gabe's lead.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a psychopath and he's been killing people and no one would know. Like you said, the way you wrote this was so um the pacing, how you did it is what amazed me again, because I took another look at the script because I read it almost 2 years ago, I believe, 2 or 3
Years ago.
years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And I remember this script. This is my favorite script. So if anyone had ever followed us on Twitter, they would see me saying Gable, 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 regarding this script because I loved it. And I always wanted Tom Holland, the actor who plays Spider-Man, hopefully I have his
Mm-hmm.
name to play this part because he is a psychopath. He has a voice in his head, which is the voice of his 10-year-old bully that he killed, the first bully that he killed. He like you said, Guy, he has to train his face because he doesn't feel emotion like everyone else does. He has to pretend
Right.
or show the correct emotion at every time because the true person in him is the killer. Now, when you said that you just sat down and just started writing, is that typically your craft? Is that typically how you go about it? Do you typically get start writing, or do you do an outline? Do you do a beat sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you typically write?
Oh, that's completely an outlier on how I write. That's why it's so weird. I tell people today, I'm still not sure if I wrote Gable or I was the vessel that Gable came through.
Hmm.
Normally for me, I start out the old fashioned way with index cards,
Hmm.
and I write out for a feature 70 cards, 70 scenes,
Okay.
and they go on a whiteboard, and I play with them, move them around.
Uh-huh.
Then I will do an outline based off of that, and then I'll start writing. And normally, all the cards, the outline, somewhere along the line, get hijacked by the story and the characters, and things change.
And
And I
but
let it go.
that is very interesting to me using white cards and using it like that. That's a good tool to think about. I want our audience, especially people who are trying to get into this craft of screenwriting, And that's the reason why I typically ask that question, is because I want everyone
Mhm.
to know that there is no set way to
No.
start writing. There's no set way to do it. Everyone has different tools and different ways to do it. And so white cards is something that I used to use too, and I don't use anymore. But that just sounds like, for a feature, that's a lot of work, but it is also very organized to kind of organize your thoughts. So yeah, thank you for that. So
Well,
with Gable, what
mhm,
is a scene in there, and I love how you set this up in Gable, is that even though Gabe, which is the short for Gable, is is a serial killer in this small town, there is someone else who's just as prolific as he is in this small town. And you're thinking, you said you do a little trick there in the script where you're gonna, like, okay, is Gabe the one who's hiding in the woods with the mask on, um looking at everyone, like following the girls, or is that someone else? And the trick that you did was so well plotted out in the script that I still was still like, who is this person? Even though at one point I think you gave us the answer on it, I had to go back and
mhm,
reread it to make sure. I was like, did I miss that? Did he tell us who it was? And you really didn't until like a certain part of the script. So in the town, Gabe is like, again, he's a serial killer, but everyone thinks he's the perfect, I want to call him the altar boy, even though the church is not really in this book. But there is also someone watching him and watching the other teenagers or the other people in the town, and you're like, who is
mhm.
this doing what he's doing? And the surprise of who it comes out to be, which I'm not going to tell everyone who it comes out to be, and his relationship with Gabe is very surprising. And I feel like it pushes, and I'm just gonna say it because no, I don't want to tell, because I just want people to read the script and realize how good it is, because how you did this, how you pushed the story along with the pacing, with the murders, with the thriller, with the mystery of the person behind the mask who's kind of following everyone around, and giving that surprise twist at the end. And then at the very end of the script, which I hate to even rush through this because I feel like we
Mhm,
need to really delve into Gable, because it's so
mhm,
many twists and turns in this script. But one of the questions I always ask everyone, outside of the protagonist, who else did you love writing
mhm.
for the script?
Oh, God. Really, Vicky Washington, the FBI agent,
Hmm.
because she's the first victim of this killer, whether it be Gable or someone else, was her niece.
Yeah.
And she's been tracking him for years. And she finally tracks him to his hometown when he makes the one mistake he's ever made.
Yes.
And she's now on the hunt. And she brings in the police chief and basically tells him, I'm gonna kill him.
Hmm.
You can either help or get out of my way.
Hmm.
And I like that vibe because she's so dedicated to not only catching Gable, but enacting a personal vengeance because of what she's lost. Because the one thing everybody seems to get a little about Gable, and sometimes they really get it, is Gable started when he was a child,
10 years old.
10 years old. He had to have help.
Hmm.
And that helper fell under Gable's influence. It wasn't the other way around.
Hmm.
The helper didn't go to Gable and seek help. Gable lassoed the helper, used his heartbreak to find a way to get what he wanted to do, which was kill.
Hmm.
Because, and I'll bring this out right here, is the only true emotion Gable ever shows during the script is the odd smile, because that smile is who he is.
We
That's
truly.
the only thing he feels. The only time he feels anything else is during the act of killing. But if you notice in the script, you never see who kills when the mask is there. It's always a mystery.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and the only person that you ever really see kill anybody is Gable.
Mm-hmm.
But no one looks at Gable. Even when the evidence starts stacking up against him, he goes, "But I'm a good boy."
I'm a good boy.
And that's the whole premise of the story is people see it. And whether it's Bundy or Dahmer or Hannibal Lecter from the movies, when they're younger, someone saw it and
Yeah.
someone ignored it
Mm-hmm.
and they let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And that monster grew and grew and grew until they couldn't hold it in anymore.
Anymore. Yeah. And I love the fact that just bouncing off your statement, it's like you would think that the helper of Gable was the one who influenced Gable, but really it's the opposite. Gable
Mm-hmm.
influenced his helper. And you would not think so. You'd be like, oh my God, this person should not have been influenced by a child,
Yeah.
but
Like,
he was able to influence him.
yeah, the one of the things about prolific serial killers who go on for years and years and years is they're chameleons. They can make you feel a certain way and pull you. Think Bundy's a prime example. He was arrested in Aspen, Colorado, talked his way out of jail, and Gable's that same charisma. Everybody loves him, and he can prey on your bias towards him to get you to do what he wants to do.
Yes. Yeah, and you wrote that so very well. You wrote his psychopathic episodes where the voice is in his head of his
Mm-hmm.
first kill is in his head, egging him on to go kill. And he's like, no, 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 I'm a good boy today. I'm a good boy today. And the voice is like, no, we're going to go kill. And then he switches that quickly into the murderer that he is, and you just kind of see, like you said, you only see like the glee or a real emotion out of him is when he's truly being himself.
Mm-hmm.
The Again, I don't want to rush it, but I want to get to like how you ended or moved this story to the end, because Gabe does not get his comeuppance. He At the end of
Now,
this script, you leave it open for additional movies to happen,
well,
sequels to happen with this script, which is great. If like again, Tom Holland would have been perfect to me. My opinion. I always cast people. Would have been perfect for Gable, because of the crazy, because of you have created such a character that I would be like, yeah, this might be Oscar worthy, like to me. And it would have been a character that he could have kept playing on and on, to even the range of emotions that really Gable represses and doesn't show. But I really truly believe that the ending, and let me just give the audience just a little bit of this. Gable doesn't get his comeuppance because he used the person um that has been kind of his right hand man, or the Batman, or the Robin to his Batman, um, gives up, kind of sacrifices himself up as the person who's been killing everyone. And we're not saying that he didn't. You got to read the script, and we got to get it made. But and everyone in the town, even the FBI agent, is totally disillusioned and totally is like, yes, Gabe is the hero. He comes out smelling like roses. And at the end of the script, through everything that happens, even though they at first suspect him, they're like, no, it has to be Gable. It has to be him, because someone saw him where one of the girls was taken, or when the guys was one of the guys was killed. They saw him near that or something. We found an earring on him that belongs to one of the teenage girls that's missing. So it has to be him. And his Robin, made it so where everybody's like, oh, that wasn't you. We actually, he had the police and the FBI apologizing to him for bringing him in. And then
mm-hmm.
at the very end, like I said, he comes out smelling like roses. He comes out smelling like the hero over and over again. He does it like 3 times in the script where he comes out like the hero of the script. So you end it where he's the hero. And then you move him into college, and he's basically in college like fresh meat. Let's
Hmm.
let's let's get it started here too. And he's found him another Robin, possibly, to manipulate into his craziness, his psychopathy,
Yeah.
craziness that he has going on with killing people. I cannot tell the audience how well written the script is and how fascinating the characters are, and how I feel like for any actor who's, worth their salt, a young actor who's trying to find something to really um get their teeth into, and to play a role similar to Dexter, but I feel even in the Dexter character that Gable's a little bit different than Dexter. Like
Mhm.
Dexter to me can actually, he doesn't need to play or show the correct emotions all the time, even though I know they kind of set it up like that. This character has to delve deep in himself to me to play. You tell me if I'm wrong, Guy, but to me,
No,
it feels like it's such a deep character with such richness of how you wrote him that I just feel like um any young actor worth his salt will be biting at the
mm,
bit to get this part for Gable.
no. The,
Um,
the
with that
one key, the one key moment with Gable for anyone out there is at some point you realize towards the end that this is the game he set up. He made the rules. He's playing the game, and you're all being played. And this is a 17-year-old kid. He set it up for years to get to this point. He's been thinking about this end for to get out since day one. He knew at some point he was leaving this town.
yes,
And the only way he could do that was to make the game work for him.
yes, and he did that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about pacing with you. And
Okay.
how do you go about, and I know you said you do the cards, but in this particular script, you say you kind of freehanded wrote it. But in any other script where you're kind of, organizing it and writing it out, is pacing something that you truly consider when you're doing your B cards and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's more like a music composition. I can hear and feel the rhythm of what I'm writing. If there's a lag or a spurt where I don't need one, I'll go back and rework it until that rhythm goes. I want to build, with tension. I want to flatten out a little bit, let people take a breath, then hit them right over the top of the head with something and get it rolling again. So it's always on my mind when I'm writing the script, pacing. I just talked to some people about another script, and the first words out of their mouth were, "The pacing on this was fantastic," and it's a nonstop thriller. And so for me, it's about telling the story in a way the audience can not only absorb it, but want to hop on for the ride and go for the peaks and the valleys and get all the way to the end. If I can give them a reason to buy in, then the reaction to the script is going to be much better than if they're bored or they think it's going too fast, they can't keep up. So to me, pacing is vital.
Oh, well, you did that with the script, and I love that about it. Was there a favorite scene in the script that you love writing?
Oh, yeah, it's on page 5, I believe, now in the rewrites, but it's the scene where Gable comes home from the funeral of the boy he killed, and his parents are like, "You're going to be okay," and they leave, and you see him looking out from under the pillow, and you hear the door shut, and Gable goes to the mirror at age 10,
Hmm.
and he's practicing expressions like an actor for a role. It's joy, a smile, a frown, rage, all of these things. And then he picks up a Mickey Mouse set of ears and puts them on his head and says, "Get it right. Grown-ups need to see real feelings or you'll get in trouble." And for me, that is the moment that you meet the true Gable.
Yeah.
And when I was writing the scene, I kept rewriting. It's only this big, it's a half a page. And
Hmm.
it took me about a week. And I kept rewriting. And it could never get what I wanted. And then it popped in my head about the Mickey Mouse ears. And when he cocks him on his head, you realize this is a small child
Mm-hmm.
who has this murderous nature and knows it and will do whatever he can to give you the image you need to love him. And for me, that one scene is the script.
It truly is. And then that's when you push us right 7 years
Right.
in advance where he is loved, where he
Mm-hmm.
is like, like I said, he's the choir boy and everyone, and the altar boy, and everyone loves him.
Yeah. He's
Um,
no longer the pudgy kid, never picked for the team, ignored, all of those things. He is now the golden boy.
the golden
And
boy.
he spent the last 7 years becoming the golden boy
Hmm.
by practicing those expressions and showing you what he wanted you to see, making you feel what he wanted you to feel.
Hmm.
And that includes the girl.
It's so good. So good. But you're not a one trick pony. So you have other scripts that I have had the pleasure to kind of read. And I want to talk to you about The Vapors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give the audience just a little bit about The Vapors?
Okay, I grew up in Steel Magnolia country where women, once as they get older, refuse to be put in a box by society.
Hmm.
And if you cross them, you do that at your own peril. And so I thought about, a half hour comedy with these women who are in a retirement village and they're about to be evicted. And they're like, no, hell no. So they start a black market Viagra business to make money and live life on their own terms, which they've done their entire lives. And it deals with a woman who basically is the HOA. And if you ever met an HOA president in one of those snooty places, you know exactly who that woman is who's chasing them. And she uses the security guard to keep an eye on them. Things go awry. But these women live life out loud. And that's the best way I can say it.
And I would just say that The Vapors are three elderly women living in a retirement home, and the Golden Girls has nothing on them.
Well, we had that. I say it's the Golden Girl meets Weeds.
Yeah,
Because,
that's a great comparison. That is a great.
because those people, if you get in their way, they're going to run over you. It's to me, they're really based off composites of characters and women that I know in my life or knew in my life, grew up with. One of them, Dee, was probably my favorite character in the whole cast. There was a lady who lived down the street. Her son and I played Little League together, got in trouble together. She whipped my butt more times than I know what to do, talk about. But as she got older and I got older, she always made fudge. But when she passed away, she put in her will that I would help carry her to the grave. So she really was part of my life. And so I said, I got to honor how wild she was because she had killed off, I think, 3 husbands, had several kids. And one of my favorite stories about her, and I hope I do this quickly, we were at a family barbecue, crawfish bowl type event. Beer was there, booze. And her boyfriend at the time made a comment about the size of her butt in public. At the time, she was probably in her 40s, pushing closer to 50. She didn't say a word, turned around, walked away. She came back with a 357 Magnum pistol, cocked it, and put it in the man's crotch and said, I probably can't hit anything, but I think I'll pull the trigger anyway. Bang! No cartridge in the gun. The dude peed all over himself. And of course, they did break up. But she just didn't take crap from anybody.
So, with that being said, audience, this is the type of character this person, one of his family friends, as I would call her for you. You wrote her into The Vapor. So if you're listening to that story, can you even only imagine how he wrote The Vapors and the characters and the women in The Vapors, which is one of my other favorite scripts by you.
Thank you.
You have Southern Fried. You
Hmm.
have what was it? What is it called? The what is it? The Back Barn Bookie,
Hmm.
and then you have the Rago. I'm gonna mess with the name.
I'm
The
sorry.
Ragaroo, the not the Ragaroo, the
Oh,
one
the FIFA low.
the beef flop,
Fi- FIFA low.
low,
Yeah, it used it for an, it's just like think Merlot, and you'll understand why it's pronounced that way.
low.
Uh-huh.
Can you
Um,
tell us about the low?
yeah, it's probably one of the most personal scripts that I've ever written, because New Orleans stole a part of my soul. It's just how it is. And there's this legend about Jean Lafitte, and he's an infamous pirate who, at the time, imported millions of dollars of contraband. And he was a privateer. He was a hero of the Battle of New Orleans. At one point, the governor of Louisiana put out a bounty on his head. He didn't leave the blacksmith shop on Bourbon Street. He put a wanted poster for the governor up instead. That's how powerful he was in New Orleans at the time. And this story revolves around the myths and legends about his lost treasure, because he left New Orleans and was lost in time. They say he may have died in Galveston. We don't know. But the treasure is still missing, and people look for it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine could trace her lineage back to Marie Laveau was fascinated with or obsessed with finding this treasure. And we went on a few adventures. And so one night we were in Jean Lafitte's, and it was Mardi Gras, and it was misty. And Jean Lafitte's does not use electric lights inside. It's a building that's been in there since the 1700s. It's considered haunted. And we were sitting there, and the beads of sweat were rolling down the exposed brick. The mist was blowing through the open doors, and all of a sudden it felt like the air was sucked out of the room. And this stunning Creole woman came through in a peasant dress. And we stopped and turned to look at her. And as she came by me, her hand brushed my shoulder, and we heard, "We're not always on the salt." Now, at this point, the hair on my skin, my arm, everything's tingling. And I turned to say something to her, and she's gone. Literally, poof. And it's a small place. She couldn't have gone anywhere. And the bartender leaned over and said, "You met Josephine."
Story, everybody.
And so when I decided to write this script about a treasure hunt and a woman's with this infamous bloodline searching for the treasure, I knew it had to have more components in it and really embrace the culture of New Orleans. So the cast is ultra diverse.
Mm-hmm.
It has, a voodoo queen who wants to return to the land of the living. Mm-hmm. We got a rougarou, which, for those who don't know, a rougarou is a bayou boogeyman shapeshifter, typically seen as a werewolf, but they don't need the full moon. It's also a story told to keep children inside at night. But then the Fifalo became this Pirates of the Caribbean meets Indiana Jones, if Captain Jack and Indy were a biracial woman searching for the lost treasure of Jean Lafitte. And that takes you from the swamps surrounding the city to locations that still exist today in New Orleans. And it's a modern day adventure, supernatural adventure.
Which I also love. This is another script. Like I said, he's not a one trick pony. So he's moved, as you can see, he's writing a script, funny, almost a comedy script with The Vapors. Then you have him writing a thriller with Gable. And then you have him writing almost a horror, which I'm not saying almost, it's a horror script with the Fifalo.
Fifalo.
Fifalo. Yeah, I
Just
gotta
drop the T.
look.
You'll be good.
Fifalo, with the Fifalo. And that's what I'm saying. He's not a one trick pony. So this is who Guy is, but it's not all who he is. Like, I know I read it in his I read it in your bio that you gave me, that you're kind of like an ambassador to New Orleans and all things New Orleans basically. But I would like to just make sure that people kind of recognize you, Guy, as kind of the cheerleader to the screenwriter community that was once Twitter, but
Mhm.
now Blue Sky, um, because you're beloved in that community, because you're always championing and cheerleading folks on, and you're very honest about your pursuit in this career um, on social media, which I feel is refreshing because it makes everyone else go, okay, I'm not in this alone.
Mhm.
Um, if Guy, who is a very great, fantastic storyteller, screenwriter, is still, going through the motions with this, and he's still keeping his chin up, or at least what you're showing us, you're keeping your chin up and you're still fighting the good fight, and
Mhm.
you're still, promoting and supporting other screenwriters on social media. I guess this is the reason why I said he is such a is not just he's a great screenwriter, he is actually a very good person. Because you can be going through, lost a contest, you didn't get any the meeting you had with the producers, or someone
Mhm.
interested in your script kind of like passed on you. um you can see that Guy is moving, or he is someone who understands that, and he is always championing himself, which is great because he's teaching. You have taught me so much about championing myself on social media, but you also champion so many other people. And I guess want to know, how do you feel like when we moved over to Blue Sky? And I'm switching a little bit here.
Mhm.
When you moved over to Blue Sky, I remember you hadn't yet joined Blue Sky. You haven't came on it. You hadn't announced yourself or something. But when I was on Blue Sky, people were like, "Is Guy here yet? Is Guy? Is Guy? Is Guy here? Where's Guy? Is Guy coming?" And you showed up, and there was like, "Guy!" It was almost like you walked into Cheers, and people were like, "Guy is here." And I would just like to know, how do you keep that positive mindset, that positive
Mm.
kind of outlook going, even on the days where you're feeling discouraged about certain things that are going on in your writing career? How do you keep that going for yourself and for the community?
Well, to me, it's pretty simple. Uh, when I first got on the social media to promote me, I made a decision right up front. I'm going to wake up every day, make the decision to do it again, and I'm going to promote myself and others as hard as I can. Because when I first got on social media, no one knew my name. I had to beg people to read their scripts. Who's this guy asking to read my script? And but the screenwriting community on social media literally is like a family. We're all trying to get to the same place. We write different things, but at the heart of it is we love the craft. We love to tell stories. And if I can't be happy and cheer for somebody while I'm on the same path, I think something's wrong there. I'm missing something because I can't tell you the number of times when I got a pass or I got a void of no response for sending a script out, that by going on social media and promoting one of my friends, somebody I know, a script I read and really love and really and try to, and then they get a read or something because of it. That just lifts me up. So it feels selfish to say I'm promoting other people, but I am. But it's really at the root of it is what it does for me is so much more than I can ever give back to the community.
And I think that it's so appreciated because I know when I first joined Twitter, the community, the screenwriters community, you were very one of the very first people who welcomed me into the community, and you were one of the very first people when I was like, "Well, anybody got a chance to want to read this script?" And you were one of the very like, "Hey, I'll read it for you, and I'll give you
Mhm.
feedback." And you truly helped me. You're one of the people who helped me make that horrible, horrible script. Thank you so much for reading it like the multiple times that you did, and the feedback you gave actually helped make that script better. I still talk about that script to this day because that's the one that got optioned. But I feel like it's all from learning the craft, from great writers, because we were able to exchange scripts. And you told me, one of the advices you gave me is like, read scripts, read as many scripts as you possibly can. And I learned from that, and I learned from you. And the feedback that you gave helped me become a better writer. And I know that I'm not the only person you've ever touched in that kind of way of making them better, or you spoke life into them, or you cheerleaded them on, um, many multiple times. So I just want to thank you from the community for you being who you are, and you fighting the good fight for yourself, because I so want you to win. And I know you're this close. I know you got some good news to tell me soon. And if you don't, you're gonna come back on here and you're gonna tell me the good news. But you're just one of the people that I know that if the door gets creaked open just a little bit, you would just be in there. You are, like I said, such a great writer, and I just want people to get a chance to know who you are, put your name out there, know that you're writing. Like, you can do anything. Like, you can do writing, you can do comedy, you can do. I haven't seen you do a romance yet. I would love to see you do a romance, but
Does romantic drama count?
yeah, that counts. I haven't read romantic drama from you yet. I would love to
Um,
read that.
it's called "A Girl, a Horse, and the Wrong Boy."
I don't think I read that from you. Ah, okay. You're gonna have to send that one to me. But okay. With that being said, what do you have coming up next, Guy?
Oh, the last part of this year, I've kind of focused on trying to make each existing script one word better.
Mhm.
Um, I finished one a while back called "The Lost Girls Highway,"
Oh, oh
and it takes an unvarnished look at domestic abuse
yes.
and a network of people who fight back. One is a troubled biker who has his own demons, and another one of my favorite characters I've ever written, a pistol packing ex nun who drinks, smokes, curses, but her sole focus and mission in life now is to help women escape from these dangerous situations. Because you know it, if you're famous, it goes viral
Mhm.
and it's all over social media and everything else. But if you're not famous, if you're just somebody who lives in a town and is married to an idiot, and you're getting beaten or psychologically abused,
Mhm.
and you tell somebody about it, it's often dismissed, ignored, or it's your fault.
Mhm.
You're the reason he hit you. You're the reason he did this, which we all know is bullshit.
Mhm.
And this came about because a friend of my mother's called me out of the blue and said, "Can you go to Orlando and get my daughter?" I'm like, "Put her on a plane." She goes, "She can't. Her ex-husband is a cop. We think he has people at the airport. Can you go get her?" 13 hours later, I hit Orlando, middle of the night, put this woman in my car, bruised face, but it was the eyes. They were vacant. It was just pure, not terror, but resignation to the place where she had found herself. I made her lay in the back, we going down the road. All the way home, she would always ask very politely, "May I go to the bathroom? May I do this?" That's how she was trained. So that story kept in my head for years, and I finally wrote it. Um, because and I saw where it ends with us came out and had, some of that in it and had such a big impact in the box office and people really related to that story. And so when I saw that, I said, well, people are going maybe not like the unvarnished look I give them, but they won't be able to turn away at what people are willing to do to help others. And so that's the story of Lost Girls Highway. And it is in a couple of places that if it continues, it may be something that makes me break through.
Mhm.
Um, and that girl went on to get remarried, have kids, has grandkids. So it's just probably one of the more gritty and powerful scripts I've written, but it's because the look in her eyes is something I'll never forget. And on the way home, every headlight, I had to wonder, is this a traveler or is this someone coming to get us? And that's 12 hours in the dark, wondering. So, but that's the thing. I've playing with another horror script that I think were really kind of like Gable and Fifalo with the horror elements. We all reach places in our lives where we can make one decision and our life will go left or our life will go right. And that's the one I'm gonna be working on from now probably through the first quarter of next year.
Okay. Okay.
And because it has to do with the devil. You make a deal, you got to pay the price.
Do you have a title for that one?
Yeah, it's called Lucifer's Match. You know what a Lucifer match is?
Tell me. Talk to me.
You know those wooden matches that you can use to strike on anything?
Uh-huh.
That's a Lucifer match.
Oh, okay.
Um, and the image for the poster in my head is that match coming to life. Because that's the moment where you make the decision. Mm-hmm. Does my life go left or does my life go right? And you can't go back and remake that decision because time won't let you. Now you're moved to the consequences phase of the decision you made. And there's the devil.
There's the devil. Guy, you should have a campfire talk about your life and experiences. And because it's so interesting, you're so rich with stories of that, you came out of your experience of life or whatever, and how you build those stories into your scripts is just amazing to me. Um,
Well, it goes back to what you mentioned at the beginning of being given 24 hours to live.
yeah,
I wake up every day and have since I was a kid knowing I shouldn't be here. So I'm going to make the most of it every day.
so writers, um, any creative, basically listening to this is that's everyone. We you don't know from the moment next if any of us can drop dead from a heart attack, a stroke, or anything, get hit by a car, fall down the stairs, break your neck. I hate to be so morbid, but I think that we all need to kind of take a feather out of your cap, or however they say it, and try our best to show up for ourselves every day. Show up for ourselves, and then hopefully that leaches off to the people that are in our community that are around us. So I appreciate that, Guy, of that lesson that you're giving. But I do feel like we need to do a fireside chat with Guy
Well,
and have us tell us some more of your stories of your life. That would be
you live long enough and you bump into people. And I heard somebody say this who lived in New Orleans for a short period of time. She goes, New Orleans people don't exist. They live. They've seen things. They embrace it. They don't run from it. And that's part of what I want my scripts to do is tell those stories that make you lean in, whether it's a comedy, a thriller, a horror story, whatever. I want you to want to take the trip with me. And that's kind of how I live my life. My friends are like that. We don't look at life like this tapestry that we're not a part of. We're all in it, whether you're black, white, Asian, Martian, I don't care. We're all people. We all have the same thing we want. We want to be happy. We want to live. We want to love. And sometimes we get caught in all the craziness of life and we forget the basic simple thing is that the clock's ticking.
it is. It's ticking for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you told me earlier about a little bit of news around something that you're writing and you're working on. Would you like to share that with the audience?
Well, without names, there's a big management production company that really weird. I talked him into reading 15 pages. They got it. Within 24 hours, they were like, send us the rest. Months go by, nothing. I'm thinking, another one of those things. I get an email, Guy, I'm so sorry it took so long because I'm beating myself up because this script is that good. Would you be things? So they gave me a few little notes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, that's no problem. That's little stuff. The next day I get a phone call. Guy, I couldn't sleep. I really want to make this script the best it can be and get it out in the world. Here's some more notes. And I don't care if it takes 20 pages. This is what I think it needs. I'm like, it's a 101-page script now. I've never been told add 20 pages.
Yeah. They always want you to cut it down.
So I considered that a test and did it in 12, sent the script back. Just got off a call last night where now it's down to 2 story twists and they want to run it up the flagpole at where their management production company. So I'm working on making those changes, hopefully knock it out of the park, make them feel good to the point where they have no choice but to go beat on their boss's door with the script.
Beat that door down.
And so, and then, and for the people out there who wonder how long did it take, this has been basically since last January to get here. Now, how long it takes to go from here or whether it dies on the vine, I can't control it. All I can control is what I put on the page. Mm-hmm. I want to make those changes to where they, like I said, literally have no choice but to go to their boss and say, you need this. And so, I've been to the voodoo shop, made a few sacrifices. We'll see if it works. But it's a story that will resonate with people around the world because it happens every day.
Yeah.
And it is the Lost Girls Highway.
Yeah. Yeah. And that story has such a heartbeat in it. Mm-hmm. You have wonderful characters in this story. And like you said, everyone in the Lost Girls, they're not perfect. Everyone has something. Everyone has some type of baggage. So the people that they're saving, even they're saving people from serious conditions where these people can lose their lives and almost lost their lives in domestic violence. The heroes of the story are broken a little bit too, but they're still doing their best to help someone else. No one's perfect. Yeah. Even the nun, the gun-toting nun, like everyone has their issues, but they're still living outside themselves to help someone else. Mm-hmm. So my fingers are all crossed for you, Guy. I don't have a voodoo shop down here, but I definitely will keep it lifted in prayer because I am, like I said, I'm one of your biggest fans, and I'm ready for you to have that win. I'm ready to see your name up on screen. I am so ready for the world to see what I have seen. Reading your work and having you kind of mentor me a little bit. I'm just so ready for folks to see who you are as a writer and for even more doors to open up for you. Now, with that being said, on how would you write it? We always kind of lean in toward the end of it to talk about shows or books or features that if you had a chance to sit at the table, sit at the writer's room to write on, what would you have brought to the table that you feel like would have enhanced that show or that movie? And I think we talked about Yellowstone and the new is this a new television show, The Landman? Because I haven't yet seen that, but I have watched Yellowstone.
The new one, Landman. The week after I graduated from high school, I stood on a crew boat deck in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, climbed onto a rope basket, put my bag inside the basket, rode that rope basket 100 plus feet up in the air to an offshore oil rig, and began my first day as a rigger, which is pretty much the lowest rung on the job site. And it wasn't, it's dangerous. You can die at any moment. You're basically sitting on a floating bomb.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a full of piss and vinegar, you know, teenager who knew it all. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad was like, really? Okay. Your uncle offered you a job. You're taking it. You fly, you drive down to the Gulf tomorrow, catch a boat. You're gone. And so for Landman, I think I could go into that room and literally, and I've watched the show, I know every character they put on there that were in my life. I can point them out to people, whether it's the petroleum engineer, the attorney, Billy Bob's character,
Mm-hmm.
the rich guy played by John Hamm. Um, all of those, I could really add personal experience to what Taylor's doing on Landman with this show. And yes, it's in West Texas, but the oil business is the oil business, and the people who are in it don't change. I mean, they're gamblers for the most part. And a lot of the people who work on the crews, you see that movie Armageddon with Bruce Willis? I worked with people who went to MIT. I worked with people who were, you know, physicists and everything else, but they're out there on an oil rig on a mud deck, lashing chain around a drill bit because that's the life they wanted to live. They love it. It's the gamble. You know, from one day you can be poor, the next day you can be rich. And so that's what Taylor's done with Landman. And I just think with my background and knowledge of the business, I could really step in that room on day one and help maybe explore it out to, you know, from Landman to offshore. Who knows?
Do you know which channel that comes on?
Yeah, it comes on Paramount Plus.
Okay, I have to check that out. Now
Um,
let's talk about Yellowstone.
Again, that part of my really wild growing up childhood is my dad owned really cheap racehorses,
Mm-hmm.
what they call
Backyard bookie. Backyard bookie.
back barn bookie. Yeah. So I grew up on the backside of thoroughbred racetracks, and we were the claiming horses, you know, not the ones you see in the Kentucky Derby or those, but just the ones that fill out the race cards every night at the racetracks. And on the backside, there are people that populate the Yellowstone show, the cowboys and the people who get up every day and go to work for not much money, but it's a life and a job they love. And you saw that on the backside of the track, you know, whether it's the grooms or the stable hands or the jockeys who want to get to the next level out there really busting their butt to try to be something while the rich people keep getting richer, like John Dutton on Yellowstone. And so I understood Yellowstone almost from the beginning. Yeah, it's a dramatized effect of a ranch, and it doesn't work that way in real life. But the living by a code or a morality that others may not understand is something I understood intimately. Mm-hmm. And said, you know, and so that's why I became a fan of Yellowstone, because it wasn't for the rich, you know, the 280,000 acre ranch or whatever it is. It was for the characters on the show, the people that I could really identify with, whether it's the cowboys or the guy who was an orphan and ended up on the ranch and he's only lived on the ranch for his whole life. And I thought I could bring my perspective to that and really enhance what they were trying to do on that end. And with that said, though, I got to tell you, if you've ever watched the show, Beth is my favorite character.
Yeah, mine too.
Because she is just.
She is spitting fire.
Exactly. And I know women like that too, you know, not to that extent. Oh, but so I'm a big fan of some of the things. And you hear a lot of things about Taylor, and I don't know the man, never met him. Have no idea if he's nice, he's a jerk, he's got an ego the size of Texas, he's got a ranch the size of Texas, but I don't know his ego, but his work is honest in places. Mm-hmm. And it's that honesty that I think we all need to strive for in our work, that authenticity, you know, that honesty that comes out when you say, okay, I know this isn't quite how this, you know, everybody's not going to react to this well, but this is the reality of it. And I'm going to be brave enough as a writer to tell it and let the chips fall where they may. You may not like it, you may hate it, but I would prefer mm, not an angry response, but a response with emotion that is negative versus apathy to my work, because I can work with a negative response. I can find out why. I can explore the reasons they had that reaction. If they're apathetic, I'm done. I'm dead in the water. There's nothing I can find out that'll change that.
That is true. That is so, so true. Are there any, uh, is there any tips of the trade that you would like to leave the audience?
You hear it all the time, you know, write what you know or whatever. And I'm going to kind of tweak that a little bit is don't write just what you know. Write the things you're passionate about. Write the things that keep your butt in the chair for 100 plus pages or a pilot, because I don't think you can fake the passion. You can have all the craft in the world, but if I don't feel something when I'm writing it, you're not going to feel it when you're reading it. And if you're an industry person who gets hundreds of scripts, if not thousands of scripts, if I can reach off the page and grab them by the throat and make them feel something, whether it pisses them off or makes them happy, then they might read more and they might remember who I am. So that's what I would tell people is don't just cookie cutter it. You know, be daring, write the things that exposes your heart, your soul, and the passion that comes out on the page. You know, I tell people there are pieces of my soul on everything I've written. There's a part of me in somewhere. If you look, you will find a piece of me in every script. Um, and I could go through every script and tell you why I've written. What made me willing to take the journey for however many pages it took to write that.
And I love that about you because I feel like if anyone watches this interview, they will see that you have the stories come from somewhere in your life experiences. And if they took the time to read your scripts, they will find you in every one of your scripts.
Absolutely.
I thank you so much, Sky, for joining
Thank
me
you.
tonight and allowing me to delve deeper in your brain regarding one of my favorite scripts by you, which is Gable. And I thank you so much for sharing more information regarding your other scripts. Like I said, you're not a one trick pony in no way, form, or how. And I hope you come back to the show when I know you're gonna get good news soon that you'll be able to share. Um, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Blue Sky. Um, Twitter, I don't know how much longer. The only reason I'm still there, there's some industry people that I've become friends with that are there, and they're not on Blue Sky yet. When they all move, I'll probably just move completely. Um, my email's on every script. Request a script, you'll get the email.
There you go.
Um, I'm easy to find on social media. Um, but if you're ever down in New Orleans, I'm not as easy to find because I like to go into the French Quarter. One of my favorite things to do, and I'll leave you with this, is walk through the French Quarter and listen to the voices of the past that float by on the breeze. There are stories everywhere for me. All I have to do is be willing to listen.
Great seeing, Guy. With that being said, thank you so much, Guy, for joining us tonight again. I would like to, tell our audience that if there's anyone who's doubting your craft or doubting what you're doing or feeling like the industry is you're not getting any attention or you're screaming into the void, um, we hear you. We believe in you. You got this. You can do this. Keep your head up. Keep writing. Keep producing. Keep directing. Keep doing whatever your creative talent is, because no one can do it like you can do it. And the world deserves to hear your voice, to see your work. The world deserves it. So keep on at it.
Amen.
And we will see you next time on How Would You Write It?